Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back. We are going to continue Ramona the Pest. This video is Chapter 2, Part 2. So let's think about what's happening. Remember the ribbon that Miss Binny put on the bunny, and now Ramona and Howie are arguing about it. They both want that ribbon that Miss Binny put on the bunny. Okay, so let's continue on with chapter 2. Ramona did not know how to make her mother understand. No other ribbon could possibly take the place of this one. So remember we had this picture? Miss Binny had given her the ribbon, and she wanted it because she loved Miss Binny so much. She wished Miss Binny were here now because her teacher, unlike the mothers, would understand. All Ramona could say was, "It's mine." "I know," said Mrs. Kemp, as if a brilliant idea had come over to her. "You can share the ribbon." Ramona and Howie exchanged a look in which they agreed that nothing would be worse than sharing the ribbon. They both knew there were some things that could never be shared, and Miss Binny's ribbon was one of them. Ramona wanted that ribbon, and she wanted it all to herself. She knew that a grubby boy like Howie would probably let Willa Jean drool on it and ruin it. Do we remember who Willa Jean is? It's Howie's little sister that's in the stroller. Miss Kemp is the mother, is Howie and Willa Jean's mother. And Miss Quimby is Ramona's mother. Okay? "Good idea," agreed Mrs. Quimby. "Ramona, you let Howie carry it halfway home, and then you can carry it the rest of the way." "Then who gets it?" asked Howie, voicing the question that had risen in Ramona's thoughts. "We can cut it in two, so each may have half," said Mrs. Kemp. "We're having lunch at Ramona's house, and as soon as we get there, we'll divide the ribbon." Mrs. Binny's beautiful ribbon chopped in two. That was too much. Ramona burst into tears. Her half would not be long enough for anything. If she ever got a two-wheeled bike, there would not be enough ribbon to weave through the spokes of a wheel. There would not even be enough to tie up Chevrolet's hair. "I'm tired of sharing," said Howie. "Share, share, share. That's all grown-ups ever talk about." Ramona could not understand why both mothers were amused by Howie's words. She understood exactly what Howie meant, and she liked him a little better for saying so. She had always had a guilty feeling she was the only person who felt that way. "Now, Howie, it isn't as bad as all that," said his mother. "It is too," said Howie, and Ramona nodded through her tears. "Give me the ribbon," said Mrs. Kemp. "Maybe after lunch we'll all feel better." Reluctantly, Howie surrendered the precious ribbon and said, "I suppose we're having tuna fish sandwiches again." "Howie, that's not polite," said his mother. At the Quimby's house, Ramona's mother said, "Why don't you and Howie play with your tricycle while I prepare lunch?" "Sure, Ramona," said Howie, as the two mothers boosted Willa Jean's stroller up the steps, and he and Ramona were left together whether they wanted to be or not. Ramona sat down on the steps and tried to think of a name to call Howie. Pie Face wasn't bad enough. If she used some of the names she had heard big boys use at school, her mother would come out and scold her. Perhaps Little Booby Boy would do. "Where's your trike?" asked Howie. "In the garage," answered Ramona. "I don't ride it any more now that I'm in kindergarten." "How come?" asked Howie. "I'm too big," said Ramona. "Everybody else on the block rides two-wheelers. Only babies ride tricycles." She made this remark because she knew Howie still rode his tricycle, and she was so angry about the ribbon, she wanted to hurt his feelings. If Howie's feelings were hurt, he did not show it. He seemed to be considering Ramona's remarks in his usual deliberate way. I could take off one of the wheels if I had some pliers and a screwdriver, he said at last. Ramona was indignant. And wreck my tricycle? Howie just wanted to get her into trouble. "You wouldn't wreck it," said Howie. "I take the wheels off my tricycle all the time. You can ride on the front wheel and one back wheel. That way, you'd have a two-wheeler." Ramona was not convinced. "Come on, Ramona," coaxed Howie. "I like to take wheels off tricycles." Ramona considered. "If I let you take off a wheel, do I get to keep the ribbon?" "Well, I guess so." After all, Howie was a boy. He was more interested in taking a tricycle apart than he was in playing with any ribbon. Ramona was doubtful about Howie's ability to turn his tricycle into a two-wheeler, but she was determined to have Mrs. Binnie's red ribbon. She trundled her tricycle out of the garage. Then she found the pliers and a screwdriver and handed them to Howie, who went to work in a businesslike way. He used the screwdriver to pry off the hub. With the pliers, he straightened the cotter pin that held the wheel in place, removed it from the axle, and pulled off the wheel. Next, he returned the cotter pin to its hole in the axle and bent the ends once more so the axle would stay in place. "There," he said with satisfaction. For once he looked happy and sure of himself. "You have to sort of lean to one side when you ride it." Ramona was impressed by Howie's work, that her anger began to drain away. Maybe Howie was right. She grasped her tricycle by the handlebars and mounted the seat. By leaning towards the side on which the wheel had been removed, she managed to balance herself and to ride down the driveway in an uncertain and lopsided fashion. "Hey, it works!" she called out. When she reached the sidewalk, she circled and pedaled back towards Howie, who stood beaming at the success of his alteration. So look at this picture. So this page. "I told you it would work," he bragged. "I didn't believe you at first," confessed Ramona, who would never again be seen riding a babyish three-wheeler. The back door opened and Mrs. Quimby called out, "Come on, children, your tuna sandwiches are ready." Isn't that funny? "See my two-wheeler?" cried Ramona, pedaling in a lopsided circle. "Well, aren't you a big girl?" exclaimed her mother. "How did you ever manage to do that?" Ramona came to a halt. "Howie fixed my trike for me and told me how to ride it." "What a clever boy," said Mrs. Quimby. "You must be very good with tools." Howie beamed with pleasure at this compliment. "And Mama," said Ramona, "Howie says I can have Mrs. Binnie's ribbon." "Sure," agreed Howie. "What do I want with an old ribbon?" "I'm going to weave it in and out of the front spokes of my two-wheeler and ride so fast it will make a blur," said Ramona. "Come on, Howie, let's go eat your tuna fish sandwiches." Okay, so they solved that problem, right, boys and girls? Okay. So that is chapter 2. Next time we get together, we will read chapter 3, which is titled Seat Work. Bye, guys.